Hey, welcome to the Summit Host Hangout podcast where you'll learn how to plan, strategize, and launch your profitable online summit. No influencer status necessary. I'm your host, Krista from Summit in a Box, and we are currently in a series about mindset blocks and shifts that come about when you're hosting a summit. And today in episode 25, I'm so excited to bring in a guest who is very near and dear to me to talk about overcoming self-doubt when it comes to planning your summit. And we're going to cover things like how confidence actually brings clarity along with it, and some really incredible, super actionable steps to overcoming self-doubt so you can plan your summit. If you are one like me who really just likes action and who, usually kind of strays away from the more woo-woo stuff, you're going to love this because it's a mix of the two. It's a mix of the mindset side, and our guest is about all things woo, but she makes it really actionable with steps that you can literally implement right after you listen or even as you listen. But to give you some background information on our guest, she's a mindset coach for business owners who have reached a level of success that a lot of people aspire to, but something still doesn't feel quite right, even though they've made it that far. So through her approach of finding alignment and cultivating confidence and making it effortless, she aids with the tangible results like more clients, cash, or clarity, but more importantly, she facilitates a deeper transformation that allows her clients to easily step into their true power and become the impactful, influential CEOs they're meant to be. And I think that's something we could all handle having for ourselves. So without further ado, let's dive in and talk with Kaitlyn Kessler. Welcome, Kaitlyn. I'm so excited to have you on here today to talk about something that I need help with, so this is going to be awesome. But before we dive into all this goodness, tell us a little bit about you and your business and how you got into all this confidence and woo-woo type coaching that is just so outside of my zone of genius.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me, first of all. I feel like I literally was there when this podcast formulated as an idea.
Yes.
So
you were there.
So it's really exciting to be here and to be on it and to be sharing. So yes, my name is Kaitlyn. If you have heard of me, you probably know me as a designer, but I've recently started up a new sort of branch of my business and my life. I am a business mindset coach, and it's taken me a while to really figure out exactly how I can help people. And I knew that I wanted to help people. I know that people come to me all the time asking for, advice and for questions and things. And where I've landed is that I really want to focus on helping business owners who feel like something isn't quite right. That feeling, that little nudge that you're like, this is cool, but not quite perfect, right? And so they've seen some success, they've had the clients, they've made some money. And from the outside looking in, it's probably wow, that's amazing. They're amazing. But the people I work with, they know that something is a little bit off, and they're really struggling to identify what that is, and let alone, go through any sort of work to process it and to heal it and to make the changes that they want. So my goal is to help them in a few ways, but mainly to understand and get more into alignment with who they are and what they actually truly want, and to show up and to make decisions and to take action confidently. And then also at the same time to allow and to let things be a little bit more fun and easy and effortless in business. And that ends up with people I work with, that ends up showing up a surface level solve. They get the clients if that's what they need, or they get the money if that's what they need, or the consistency or the clarity or whatever. But really the transformation is so much deeper than that that's just a nice tangible win. But really the transformation is a lot deeper in who they are as a person and what they believe in themselves and what they can do and what they can create. So that's where I'm at. I got here because I think it's in my human design chart. That's a little woo for everybody, but I'm supposed to lead through example, through my own experiences. And this is basically what I've been going through since I've started my business. So I got into it because I was like, this is really powerful stuff. And I know that I'm not the only person that has felt like this. And that's how I've ended up here.
You're definitely not. You guys, if you would have been able to see this video, I'm over here, with my head back on my chair, trying not to crack up laughing because I feel like she's just describing me perfectly. And like, as I go through the transition of focusing more on Summit in a Box for my development business. And I love the point you made about people who like, they kind of have their business figured out and they feel like it's going well, but it's not quite perfect. And I feel like that describes people who are ready to host their first summit so well, because I strongly believe that you should have a, fairly successful business before you want to host a summit, and like you dive right in to help those people. And I think it's perfect. I'm curious about how you started to understand the importance of confidence and how impactful it can be when it comes to taking a big action, like hosting a summit, for example. What like triggered that for you when you're like, oh my gosh, like this isn't just some buzzword and something that people say is important. It really is a game changer.
Yeah. So I have been thinking about sort of my journey in the last year, and this isn't like a linear explanation. It kind of, a couple of things were happening all at once. A lot of it started with this time last year, like literally almost a year ago to the day that I decided to start my own podcast. And I had felt this like pull to do it for a long time, the way I'm sure people that are like interested in summits have been feeling this, like, I should do that. But then like not actually doing it. So I had felt like that for a while, and I just wasn't sure of like what I wanted the podcast to be, just that I thought I would like it, that I thought I would be good at it. And where I was at, and where I've been many times before any big decision, is that I had a long list of things I didn't want to do. And so I know that that's probably pretty relatable for people. And I was like, well, I don't want to do this, and I don't want to sound like that, and I don't want to have this, but I couldn't figure out what to do and how to get started with it. And my mentor at the time, just like super pragmatically was like, here's a cool storytelling format. Like, this has worked well for me and my podcast and other podcasts. And I was like, oh, okay. So I took that idea, like just like very logically. And then I had a few ideas in my mind about like pillars of my business, that like things that platforms that I wanted to stand on. And when I started to brainstorm like her storytelling stuff with my pillars, I realized, oh, like my whole business like fits these pillars. Like I hadn't realized that that's why those were my pillars. Like from my experience, I just thought they were unrelated thoughts, I guess. And so I decided to tell my business like origin story and reflect back over the years. And it was just like a really aligning thing. So that happened in like one part. And then in another part of like the same sort of span of maybe like 3 or so months, I began to notice that like all of the moments in my business history that were really pivotal, like really big for me, I just kind of took action. Like I just kind of did stuff without necessarily knowing how it was all going to work out. Kind of the opposite of what we learned growing up. Like I leaped before I looked. and it seemed to kind of work in one way or the other. Like it wasn't always like, and then I made $1 million, but it was like, and then I learned something or whatever. There's always something good that ended up coming out of it. And I started learning about NLP around this time. And in NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, like a big pillar, like a big thing of how NLP works, or why it even is a thing, is it was developed by people who were modeling successful people. So they modeled really successful psychologists and psychiatrists and speakers and salespeople, and they created something from that. So it kind of blows my mind when I think about it, because I'm like, oh, so-and-so must be doing this. They're doing this NLP thing. But I'm like, no, like that's the person that they modeled. Like that's the kind of people they modeled. It's like kind of reverse engineering it in a way. So with that, I started looking at people that I admired, people that I wanted to emulate. And I was like trying to figure out what they all had in common and like what I could model from them. And what it boiled down to is that they were confident. They were showing up. They were doing things. They were putting themselves out there. They were leaping before they looked. They were just like sharing their message so unapologetically, and just being who they are and being what they believed in and just acting it out so well. And I was like, okay, like that's coming up again, like this idea of like confidence and just doing stuff. Okay. And so all of this was kind of happening. And then I randomly got, probably because I was like Googling all of this, you know how Google will like suggest articles for you? I got this one, and it was basically debating what comes first, success or confidence. Like, does confidence lead to success, or does success lead to confidence? And I don't even remember if the article like came to a conclusion. Like I've tried Googling to find that article again, and I can't find it. I'll probably get it suggested now, like this week. But it was like, I kind of felt like it didn't matter, right? Like either way, it's a cyclical thing. So if you feel like you don't have success right now, then work on your confidence and get success. If you feel like you don't have confidence right now, then have some kind of success and remember that success and really step into that success and blow up your confidence. Like, to me, it was just like, oh, duh, like it doesn't matter which comes first. Like, I just need to step into whatever one feels easiest to step into. And at that point, it felt really easier, like, to step into confidence, just like turn that on. Right. So all of those are happening. I feel like I've kind of gone off from the question now.
I love how it's a journey that kind of like built on each other for you to come to this realization. It wasn't just like you were sitting there and were like, oh my gosh, I just figured out this thing. But you like learned about it in like practical different ways. And I think that just makes it so much more powerful. And like, that's probably why it has stuck with you so much and is now such a big part of what you do.
Yeah, I totally agree. And like something that I had started doing around that time was journaling. And for me, I think it was really valuable to see how these things kept coming up. Like, because, if you like think back, like your memories kind of get distorted and you forget specifics and all that. But like, because I was journaling about it, I kept noticing that I was writing like the same type of words over and over and over again. And so where it all kind of landed was like, okay, I'm getting all of these indicators and all of these signs that like confidence is really important. But also, what do I do with that confidence? I need to just take action. I need to just show up. I just need to commit. And I've kind of just been doing that since, and it's been going pretty well.
No, I love it. And like, I know what you mean, because I'm taking it back to when I was going to host my first summit, and before I will say the confidence to do it, like, just kind of magically hit me one day. But before that happened, it was exactly like you said earlier, where I was thinking about it. I thought about it for months, maybe even years. And I was never even close to doing it because that confidence aspect was missing. I was always, oh no, I'm not good enough for that. I'm not a big enough deal for that. People will think I'm stupid for doing that. Then one day I was like, what the heck? I can do that. I can make this incredible. And boom. From there, like, I never looked back. I just went for it. And that kind of leads me to my next question I have for you is, how can confidence bring clarity? And we're talking about summits, and I think we could talk about that specifically, but feel free to take it in whatever direction you want, because I think it applies, and I think it's just so powerful.
Yeah, I mean, I think it totally applies to summits. I think it applies to basically any big decision that you're kind of making, and it's kind of building off of what we were saying. Like, if you have that confidence to take that action, when you take that action, that will immediately show you more clarity. I think it's really easy to stay in our heads and try to like figure things out and think of all the possible scenarios and all the things that could happen, or like bad things that might happen and all of that. But nothing happens at all, period, until you like do something. And so like in my experience, I haven't had a summit yet, but in other things that I've launched, immediate, like upon putting up the sales page, upon like saying this is ready to buy, like upon like putting anything literally out into the world, like immediately gained so much clarity on who I was attracting and what they wanted from me and what type of people they were and how I could better serve them. And it's just like, you won't get that kind of feedback unless you put something out there. And I guess just to speak to for a second, like the idea, again, this is from NLP, but you've heard it paraphrased in a lot of different ways, but like, there is no such thing as failure. So like, if you put something out there and maybe it doesn't work out quite the way you wanted, there's so much to gain from every single experience. So let's say you do a summit and maybe it's a little bit rocky at first. Okay, like take that information, take that as data, like put on your scientist hat and figure out like, was it the phrasing of the title of the summit? Was it where you were marketing it? Like do that kind of investigative work, and the next one will be even better, and the next one will be even better, and the next one will be even better,
You can learn so much from it. And like, just going off of that example, the second summit I hosted is one that I never talk about because it did not go very well. But I don't consider it, at the time, I considered it a failure, but now I don't, because I tried something very different with that summit. Instead of a big one, I hosted one with one speaker a day for 5 days and marketed it not as a summit, even though, secretly it was. And it made less than 25%, I think, of what my other summits have made. So, at that time, that was a failure. Instead of, I was missing a 0 or 2 from the income I wanted to make from it. But now I can be like, okay, now I can teach people that this strategy is not a good one. I know not to do it again. I know so much to do differently. And the summit following made how many times more than that? 10 times more than that one. So, I mean, like, there is so much you can learn from that. So, I love that you brought that up. And I want to walk through some steps now because we're talking about confidence. People are like, okay, great. I need to be confident. That's going to get me all this clarity and all this stuff. But what do I do? So, how can someone overcome self-doubt and feel more confident when it comes to planning a summit?
Yeah. So, okay, I'm going to go down the woo rabbit hole just a tiny bit, but it's all really approachable, I promise. In my experience and in my knowledge, everything starts with your mindset. And I think if somebody came to me and they're like, I want to do this thing, but I'm just too nervous, I'm just too scared, I would say first and foremost, like, let's recognize that you're always going to be your biggest critic. And it's a tragic thought. Like, it's so sad, but it's so true. Like, you speak meaner to yourself, you judge yourself harder than anybody else ever will. And when you're putting yourself out there, that's like an open field for like negative shots to be fired at you and from yourself. And I think recognizing that nobody else is thinking that negatively about you, nobody else is judging you that hard, nobody else is like, everybody is looking at you like, oh, they're doing something and that's different and that's cool. Or they're thinking, wow, I've never heard of summits. Let me do more research on that. Like, that's literally the perception. I know, like, in our online space, there's a lot of talk about like community over competition and all that kind of stuff. And in my experience, it's actually so true. Like, it's weirdly so true. Like, people are actually so much more supportive than you think they're going to be, because in your head, you're the one being really, really negative, right? And the first thing would be to start to reframe those thoughts, start to acknowledge that that's not the reality. That's just what's going on in your head. And a way to kind of revamp that is to just acknowledge like how cool it is that you're deciding to do this summit. Like, you're bringing an incredible resource to your audience. You're making a huge move, a huge impact in your business. You're going to get a huge cash injection with doing it because they are really successful. They are really like a money-making activity, which is amazing. And when you get really bogged down in these like detailed and specific issues, it's nice if you could just pull yourself out just a little bit, just go up just a little bit and look at the big picture and remind yourself of how incredible this work is that you're doing. And so I do this, and a lot of people recommend doing this with like a gratitude practice because that's an easy way to kind of zoom, I guess, out, to pull up. And I know that's a common recommendation, but if you're hearing it again and you still haven't started doing it, this is your sign again to start doing it. And part of my gratitude practice, and something that I think is kind of assumed but not usually said, is to make sure that you're showing gratitude for yourself, showing gratitude for the fact that you're an action taker, that you're doing this thing, that you're being brave, that you're being courageous. I think sometimes it's easier to like go outside of ourselves and be like, oh, I'm grateful for like, my comfy bed or my cute cats or whatever. But making sure that you include yourself in that exercise and that practice is really, really powerful. And then like another thing that still kind of in the mindset realm, and also really easy, really, really easy is to actually just work with like your body, your physiology, and that will make immediate shifts in your mindset. So you've heard people talk, there's like a TED talk about like the Superwoman pose and standing with your hands on your hips and your chest kind of pushed out and proud. But overall, like just minor tweaks and like improving your posture. And if you start to pay attention to those kinds of things, you'll notice like in your like darkest moments and the really beating yourself up kind of moments, like it's showing up in your physiology. You're slumped over, you're closed off, you're like literally pulling yourself inward, trying to be smaller. And so noticing that and becoming aware of that and taking an active stance on like doing the opposite, right? Like rolling your shoulders down and back and like pulling up your crown a little bit so it's taller and taking deeper belly breaths, like that instantly will start to combat negativity if you are finding yourself sort of in a negative like thought spiral. And it's a super quick, super simple, like little physiological shift. And I'm like noticing my posture is better as I'm saying this. So those are like really simple ones. Something that we do like with NLP, but you can do it on your own too. It's not anything super complicated. Is you can create like anchors. So it's basically like making a little trigger point on your body to help you instantly feel any emotion, like any state that you want to feel. So confidence is a great one to have. I have one that I have built up, and you can do it like you can just think of a time that you felt confident and sort of press on the same spot on your body. I'm doing it on my knuckle that you can't see, but you can also like in just a moment that you generally feel confident, and it doesn't have to be business related. Maybe it's when you're out on a date with, your partner, or when your kid shows you a really cute drawing and it makes you really happy and feel really good about it, or something like that. Just take a moment to acknowledge like this is a good feeling and start to tap on the same point on your body like repeatedly, and you'll be able to tap into that whenever. So like when you get, an email that you don't like and you start to feel bad, you can hit that point and again feel better about things. And it's super quick and super simple. So those are all kind of like really woo.
I love that.
I mean, I guess they're not really woo. They're kind of like, they're more like body shifts. But then there's like things that I have unintentionally done for most of my business. And now I'm realizing just how powerful it actually is. But like, I always keep like screenshots and like proof of like happy things. So like literally there's a tab on my website right now called happiness, and it's for myself. Like other people could see it and be like, oh wow, people like her, but really it's for myself to see good things. Like I have messages from you, Krista, saved in there. Like there's like good things in there where people are just like, you're amazing and I love you and da 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 da. Like save that stuff, remember that stuff. Like know that you have a bank of that, like ready to make you feel better. Like you could probably just even hear it in my voice. I started talking about it and I immediately got like way happier. Like hold on to that stuff. Don't just write it off as like another thing. Like take a moment to actually feel appreciated and to appreciate it, and know that it's always there for you. Like, so whenever anything starts to feel a little rocky or shaky, you can go back to that. Right. And in general, like if there's a lot of issues around self-doubt, like they're usually something deeper, right? Like there's something that maybe deeper that needs to be resolved. But if this is just like a little bit of fear, a little bit of nerves, starting to reprogram that when you feel like, I've been working on this for about a year now, when I feel like a little bit of those butterflies in my stomach, that feels like nerves and I think it's bad. But I've also started to acknowledge that that's the same feeling I have when I'm really excited. Like that's the same feeling that I have when, you're going up a roller coaster and it's about to have that first drop. Like that's nerves, but that's also excitement. And starting to like train your brain to see that those nerves are indicator that something really fun is about to happen, something really exciting is about to happen, versus like, this is going to suck or whatever you're making it mean right now. And the last thing, and Chris is not expecting me to say this is going to catch you off guard, but the last thing I want to say to build up your confidence is to join your membership, because you're literally giving them everything.
I love you.
So I don't understand how you wouldn't feel confident if you didn't, like, you have like scripts, like exact things to do, step-by-step processes, and no affiliate commission or anything. But I just feel like that is like the biggest confidence boost of all time. Like if someone's literally like, this works, do this, like that's a great opportunity to feel really confident and feel really good about what you're doing.
You're awesome. Thank you for dropping that in there. But seriously, these are my notes. I got to show Kaitlyn my notes, you guys. It's a lot of words that are slanted and have arrows pointing all over. Let's see. I loved your point about posture, and I could see you as you were talking about it. You were set up a little straighter, but no, like it totally makes sense. And I'm thinking before we got on this interview, I was just feeling so bogged down in work. I'm already behind. It's only Tuesday when we're recording this. I'm already behind on my work for the week, and I was thinking of how I was sitting, and I was hunched over my keyboard, shoulders in, not doing great. Now I'm on here with you, sitting back in my chair, all loose. So much better. My work situation is not any different, but I feel a whole lot better, and it's showing in like as simple as how you're sitting. Something I do want to talk about is the anchors, because I've never heard of that before.
Okay.
So talk to us a little bit more about how we like develop those. So literally whenever we are having those good feelings, we're just touching the same point on our body, and then we can go back to that later.
Yeah. So the best scenario, like the best way for your subconscious mind to really like latch onto it, is if it's a super authentic experience. So like legitimately you are feeling really good or really confident or whatever the emotion is that you want, that you in the back of your mind remember to go and do that. But if that's not as easy to tap into, or it's just like not happening and you don't remember to do it when it's happening, you can also like recreate those. So you could do it right now. Like if let's think of a kind of general, the idea of like Christmas morning, and you're a kid, and you don't even have to, this doesn't have to be your Christmas morning at all, but you can imagine this from movies and life. But you're a kid, and like you wake up really early, and you're a little bit groggy, and it's dark out, and then you remember it's Christmas morning, and you go down the stairs, and you run into your parents' room, and they're still sleeping, and you're like, Mom, Dad, wake up, it's Christmas, we gotta go open the presents. like you can channel that excitement, even if that's not something you've ever experienced. And so in that moment, in that really excited state, you would, a popular place is on your knuckles, because like they never are not where they are, right? Like your shoulders could be in different places or whatever. So like your knuckles are a popular place to do it. So in the height of that excitement, you would, I'm showing, not that anybody can see it, but you would hold down and press on like your knuckle for maybe like 10 seconds, like when you're really in that state of excitement. And then as it starts to dissipate, you would just release it and let go. But then that excitement's there and you can build it and build it and build it. So like maybe you find, like what I was saying earlier about the roller coasters, maybe you find roller coasters really exciting. And like that makes you feel like jazzed and like you want to do stuff. So like next time you're on a roller coaster, right at that first like click, 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 like press on your knuckle, like add more to it. And so that's something like we do it, like you do in NLP and that I do with clients. And so I've set up like on myself a resource anchor where it helps me feel more confident, more abundant, and just overall like more happy, just like over like raising up my vibration. But you could do them for anything. You could do one for feeling calm and tranquil and relaxed and like woosah or whatever you want. But it's a really cool practice. So if you are actually in the moment, definitely do it. If you need to recreate the moment, just kind of close your eyes and really get into the feeling and see what you saw and hear what you heard and feel what you felt and like really get into it and then press it down. If you've never had a moment, like if I wanted to do, trying to think of an emotion I've never felt, I don't. But if there was something that you couldn't think of an example in your own life, you could recreate something. That's kind of like the hardest one to operate from. But again, it'll work. It'll just be a little bit, you have to do it more often to make it actually effective. So yeah, it's a cool practice.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing that. I've never heard of that before, and it's really mind-blowing, and I can see how it would work. It's like a reminder to your body to bring you back to that place.
You'll notice it now that you know about it. Like if you ever watch somebody like Tony Robbins speak, like when he's face to face with somebody, like he can touch them, he will tap them in the same spot, like when he's saying like, and you feel really good right now, don't you? And he's creating an anchor, like kind of on them.
What? Oh my goodness. Yeah, now we're going to have to watch for it. Oh my gosh. Okay, one more thing I wanted to just like highlight that you said is that your nerves that you feel when you're doing anything, but we'll, say specifically when you're hosting a summit, you can decide to let those nerves either scare you or excite you. Like it's a decision you have the power to make, and that's so cool. You don't know what's coming next. You can be afraid of it or really excited about it. And that's like a really powerful thing.
Oh yeah. So this is, again, I'm going a little down the woo rabbit hole, but everything around you is just a projection of what's going on in your mind and affected by your perception. So like if you feel nervous and you make that mean that things are going to fail, like things could go great, but you'll be stuck on that one email that you forgot to change the subject on, or you'll be stuck on that one person that was like a troll and a terrible, mean person. Like you won't even be able to acknowledge all the good that did happen,
No, you're so right. And I can even think of situations where I've done the opposite thing before, but I'm just so glad that you have been on here to share all this stuff. I'm curious if there's like a number one top takeaway you would like listeners to get from what we've talked about.
I think kind of like where we just landed in the conversation naturally actually is that like taking that small step to pay attention to your thoughts and like acknowledging just how in control you actually are of your thoughts and of your perceptions of things, and how many like options and opportunities really do exist for you. I think one of the biggest things that I've been learning for myself and for other people is like when we have a problem or something that we're scared of or whatever, like kind of maybe more negative sounding thing, we put this like box around it and we're in this box and we're like, everything sucks in this box. And it's really difficult for us to like get outside of the box and look in and be like, okay, well, there's this option or this option or this option or this option. And so just, I guess, bringing awareness to the idea that you can step outside of your box and you can see other solutions and other options and other opportunities from it. And to just start paying attention to that, to start thinking about your thoughts a little bit more than letting them running on, autopilot. It doesn't have to be like super woo, like we don't have to go and like hypnotherapy or anything like that. But just the general act of like paying attention to your thoughts and deciding to make them mean something that you want them to mean, like deciding that nervous feeling in your stomach is actually excitement, is super, super, super powerful. And yeah, how I think about it is like, Google Alerts. Do you have Google Alerts set up for anything?
I used to. I don't anymore.
I used to have them set up for like everything, but now I still get some for like my name. So like if someone randomly said my name, like in a blog post, I would get an alert for it. And so I kind of think about that I like set up a Google alert for my mind to just like notice when I'm like getting really negative and just be like, hey, you're being kind of negative right now. Like, and just to check in with that and see, hey, like, why am I being so negative? How can I change this? Like, how can I decide to make this a better experience, a better thought, a better meaning or whatever? And I think that that's a really powerful thing that people can start to do in their own lives. Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's an action people can start taking right away, which I am all about, a good action step. So there's your action step, you guys.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for coming on and sharing all of this, Kaitlyn. Where can people go to learn more about you, what you offer? I know you have an awesome resource for everybody, so be sure to mention that.
So my website is KaitlynKessler.com. And currently I have 2 different like coaching offers. One is a 90-minute intensive, and that's really for people that just feel completely like lost in what they want with their business and where they're going. So it helps you get clarity on that and confidence to take the action. And then the other is a 6-week program. And that really focuses on like my main message, right? Like getting into alignment, cultivating that confidence, and then really allowing things to be more effortless. So those are available. And then on Instagram, it's at Kaitlyn S. Kessler. And then I also have a free clarity and alignment hypnosis. And if you're listening, you're like, hypnosis, what? It's not scary, I promise. It's just like meditation. If you just close your eyes, that's what it feels like. But with it, it helps kind of plant some seeds of being someone who knows what they want, knows where they're going, and takes action on that. So a nice little resource to have and to listen to, KaitlynKessler.com/free hypnosis.
Thank you so much. I'm going to go get that myself. I will link to all of that stuff in the show notes, you guys. Be sure to go give Kaitlyn some love and check out all she has because it is incredible. Thank you so much for being on, Kaitlyn. How incredible was that episode with Kaitlyn? I think there are so many action steps we can all immediately start to implement based on what she said. I would encourage you to pick at least one. Maybe start with the one she recommended, which was starting to reframe the thoughts you have. Pay attention to your thoughts. When you're going in the more negative direction, stop to think about, why is that? How can you change those thoughts? And, you might have to set reminders on your phones or have a sticky note on your computer. Something that will help you build that habit, but I think it's such an incredible and important thing to start to do. And I think there are so many other action steps we can start to implement off of this right away. Remember that nobody else is thinking about you as negatively as you are. Everyone else is assuming the positive, and they're not thinking the terrible things that you're thinking about yourself. So please know that. I also love that she recommended that we do a gratitude practice, and in that include gratitude for yourself. I have a gratitude notebook sitting right next to my desk. I've never once written anything about myself in there, and I think that I'm probably not alone in that. So I would love to see you start to implement that as well. She talked about starting to work on your posture, working on those anchor points, and reframing being nervous and scared to being excited. And I think those are action steps we can all put into place right away. So thank you so much for tuning into this episode. For show notes and links to everything that Kaitlyn mentioned, head to summitHostHangout.com/025. In the next episode, we'll be chatting with another incredible guest about getting out of your own way when it comes to hosting your summit. So be sure to tune in for that. Now go out and take action to plan,